Lieutenant Commander Carol Bateman is a battle group chaplain. I know, surprise. She's an Anglican priest, but visits war zones rather than country parishes, or maybe both. We'll have to see. She joins us now from Ottawa. Welcome to you. And it's Padre. We've already discussed that, so I'm not being insulting if I call you Padre.
No, absolutely not.
Now, we think of chaplains in wartime, and I suppose we have an idea of the risk that they put themselves under and so on. But today, I mean, what is the precise role? Is it dealing with men and women who've seen trauma and angst and danger and dealing with broken people? Or is it, and I know a little bit about military life, just the boredom, the breakdown of relationships that goes on in barracks and so on? I mean, what is it mostly that you have to do?
I'd say it's a combination of all that. It's helping people in times of struggle, whether that be with family or with marriage or with something that they've seen in battle or just everyday life, the system, getting older, any stresses that they might have.
The people I know who've served in various militaries, I've heard this phrase so many times, they say it's 90% utter boredom and 10% sheer terror. Is that about right?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say utter boredom at any point in time, because if you're a unit chaplain, you are with the troops in everything that they do, from PT to training, any type of training that they do, and so that keeps you occupied. No, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a chaplain who said they were bored.
All right, so you mentioned training. So if they have to, I don't know, jump out of planes or various combat courses, you have to do that too?
We do that as well. We go with them. And so chaplains are non-combatants. We don't carry a weapon, but if you went to the range for the day, you could pull the butts, pull the targets up for them to shoot at, or you can pick up the cartridges off the ground, or you can serve the soup at lunchtime.
Right.
But you go with them to be with them, because that's where the talking happens and the sharing happens. And if you're a part of their life, they're willing to share parts of their life with you.
Mm-hmm. How far forward do you go? Because we know, again, Second World War, for example, there were chaplains on beaches it was only men then, who were dying, giving them last rites, listening to them, helping them as they passed over, as it were. And they weren't carrying weapons. They were at terrible risk. Is that replicated today? Are modern chaplains doing the same sort of thing?
It is, to a certain extent. Certainly the forward operating bases, chaplains are posted or move out to those positions with people. We wouldn't go out on a patrol that was going into harm's way on purpose, but after a death or after an incident in theater, you would be sent to where that incident had happened, and you'd be able to minister with those troops in that area.
Right.
And that was very important, because during a wartime, you can't get in to say your goodbyes. You can't get in to have that time of remembrance. So it's important for the chaplain to go out.
Yeah. Now, this is a very delicate area. It's getting the balance right, because I take faith very seriously. But if someone is under incredible stress and they're terrified, they're frightened, they're vulnerable, and they could look for faith when it's not really a profound point of view. And to take advantage of that, of course, I think it will be exploitative. Have you ever faced in that situation where someone has come to you, but you know it's not real faith, it's just they're frightened?
How could you say then that it wasn't real faith?
Well, I'd say it was fear rather than faith.
Right, but sometimes it's in the moment of fear that we realize, there has to be something larger than us. There has to be more to it than just the fear that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And certainly they'll say, Padre, pray to your God. We need you. So it's not always based in faith, but when someone is scared and they just want someone to share with, that will listen to them and not judge, the chaplain is there.
Yeah. The issue of suicide, and I mean, you know again far more than I do about this, but particularly people who leave the military, but people who have served in the military, it's such a shock to go from a life which is so immediate and physical and dangerous to something which can seem rather mundane, and demons can haunt, and it does occur. That's a very difficult issue for any faith community. Have you had to deal with that?
From the point of view of helping families afterwards, yes, I've dealt with that a little bit, as chaplains have across the Canadian Forces.
Mm. It must be so difficult. People have come out of war, have seen all of that, and then to take their own lives. I don't know how you would do it.
Yeah, it is an absolutely tragic thing when it occurs for the family, of the member for the regimental family, for those who served with the member.
Yeah.
It's always very difficult.
There's a strong pacifist tradition in Canadian Christianity in particular, the Mennonites, Manitoba and elsewhere. They don't believe in the military. Have you ever had any sort of criticism?
Certainly you have people saying, why would you fight? And if you are a Christian, how can you believe in war? And for those who stand against it, there are no answers that will be found acceptable. Certainly chaplains who join, people who leave their church to join the Canadian Forces have done so because they feel that that is the mission field to which they are called, to work with soldiers, sailors, and air personnel, and to support them.
I'm not saying this just because I love this country, but I'm proud of our military, and I think there's a very strong moral dynamic within the Canadian military. I don't think there's any contradiction between being a Christian minister and serving with the Canadian military.
Right. We certainly, there's a Canadian Defence Code of Ethics that we follow, and those types of things are well covered. That is actually, we talked about part of annual training. That's a part of the annual training, the Code of Ethics and the leadership doctrine that we follow. So,
right.
Yes.
Are you, I'm sure you are, but aware of the incident in the Second World War with the 4 chaplains and the American battleship? Do you know about that story?
Yes, yes.
I mean, for those who don't, we haven't got the time here, but I'd really advise them to go and look it up. And it's 4 men, I think a rabbi, as a priest, almost sounds like a joke, but a rabbi and a priest and 2 Protestant ministers, I think.
Yes.
And they gave their life jackets to other members of the military and they died together. It's an incredibly moving story.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we are in theatre, when we've been in theatre, we work with coalition chaplains. I know there's just been a large exercise called RIMPAC, and we've had a Navy chaplain down there and a couple of support chaplains from Canada, and they're working with Americans and with Australians, and we do mix and match with other countries and other chaplains, and when the troops are involved, it's their support that we worry about more than what our denominational priorities might seem to be.
Wonderful to speak to you, particularly this anniversary of the Great War, the First World War. I appreciate it very much indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.